Zack Snyder has basically moved on. He's working on his own universe over at Netflix. He's got a Rebel Moon, a two parts coming out, two movies basically, his own version of Star Wars, and he's left the world of DC behind. Although every time you ask him, like, would you, if they gave you the opportunity, want to complete the story that you were trying to tell? Every time he says, yeah, you know what, I would love to. Whether that's going to happen or not, highly unlikely, I think most people will say, and I think they'll be right in saying that. However, we have this new world that James Gunn is establishing with the DCU. And John, I wanted to ask you, let's suppose, right? James Gunn and Zack Snyder, they worked before on a project together, Dawn of the Dead, way back in the day. And let's suppose that Zack Snyder's out there, he's at the premiere of his Rebel Moon movie, and James Gunn is there to support him. And they maybe have a conversation once they walk in the theater. They're like, James Gunn tells him, like, I'm working on a bunch of these new projects, right? There's a couple of them here maybe that don't have anybody attached to direct. Would you maybe have some interest in taking a crack at one of these? Or would you want to one day come back over to the world of DC and work with DC Studios? And if so, what project, what character would you want to take on? Would you want to maybe go back and do another Superman movie? Not Henry Cavill, but maybe David Cornsweet Superman movie. Would you want to work on a Batman project, like not Ben Affleck, but whoever we cast? Or would you want to try something completely different? Maybe you want to direct one of the episodes of Booster Gold as a guest director for an episode or two. Like I'm very curious to see this, like your answer to this question, because I personally think Zack Snyder, the storyteller, is a great person. Like what he brings to the table is unique, especially the visuals that he brings to the table, some of the best anybody in Hollywood today can offer. And it would be a big loss to never see a DCU project helmed by Zack Snyder. But I want to see what your take on this is. Like, would you hire him to work on anything they've already announced in Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters? Or maybe you're thinking about something else that they haven't even announced yet that Zack Snyder would be a good fit for?
I think he would be. I don't think he would be a good fit for anything what they have planned right now, but I think the best thing he could work on is something that can bring something to the table visually, and then something that doesn't require a lot of like intricate moving parts. Because I feel like simple, visually stunning stories are his bread and butter. Like he needs to, or just needs to have a really good writer. So something like Watchmen.
When he
Like
had Chris Terrio on Batman v Superman, that didn't
yeah,
work.
it's
Supposedly.
he but I think like something like along the lines of Watchmen, where he brought a interesting visual style, but he had a good writer to help him along. And I think in terms of characters that would fit his style more, I think in terms of the more simple grounded aspects, I think a vigilante movie could be really good. Like I'm not talking about the silly Peacemaker version. I'm talking about the hard R, like gritty 1970s type character, like what it was originally envisioned as, who was essentially DC's Punisher. So I think he could definitely do something really cool with that character. Or something, if we want something more visually stunning, I think an Etrigan the Demon movie could be really cool for him. Like characters that aren't well known that he could definitely bring a distinct style for. I think he could definitely fit in that because he is a very visual filmmaker. He does stuff visual. That is his bread and butter. Like 300 was a big visual film. I mean, the entire Guardian Legend of the Guardians,
Owls of Gold.
yeah, the
Yeah.
Gowls of Gahul, like that was very visually like I mean it's a CGI film, so a CGI animated film, so he did that visually. So I think you need to stick him to something that could bring his visual, you know uh tongue a tingling, I guess. And I think Etrigan the Demon would definitely be something really cool for him. I know a lot of people were like, oh, have him do a Lobo movie. And I'm like, I don't think he would work for a Lobo movie
I
because
was
Lobo
gonna
needs
say that, dude.
because
I would. That would be so metal. And then no, Jason Momoa, I should say, probably already loves working with him. Like, I mean,
yeah,
if you go by all the press stuff, I would love to see that collaboration. I think
think,
Okay,
but I
sorry.
think
Go ahead.
similar to Dawn of
Yeah.
the Dead, I think you need to get James Gunn to write it because I think James Gunn needs to bring the humor and the satirical nature that Lobo needs to have, or else he just becomes another generic 80s like action hero character. So I
Right.
think Zack Snyder could bring something visually there, but I would prefer someone just someone who could like bring like that funny nature. Maybe like a David Leitch. I think a David Leitch could work on that because he
That
did
yeah, that would be interesting.
Deadpool
Yes.
2. So I think he could definitely bring something. But Zack Snyder, if he were to do Lobo, just remember he's a humorous character. You're not supposed to take him seriously. So I would want him for like imagine like a big scene. Like I don't know if you remember seeing the god awful Spawn movie from back in the 90s, like that scene in hell
Isn't there
that
supposed to
looks
be
like
another one?
they're supposed
It's
to be,
never
but
gonna
Todd
happen.
McFarlane keeps teasing us, even though it's never going to
Yeah.
happen. But yeah, the scene in Hell that looks like a bad PS2 game,
Hmm.
something like that, but directed by Zack Snyder and having like Jason Blood like be in Hell and like seeing all these like demonic entities. That could be really cool. Like that is something I would want to see from Zack Snyder. Something just awesome because he's a guy
Yeah.
who's just like I want to see something awesome. So give him that, and that would be really cool.
That I think that'd be fun. And you might be right. That could be a great collaboration, like somebody like James Gunn writing the script, and then Zack Snyder like coming and directing it. I certainly think like when you look at still the best movie Zack Snyder did in the DCEU was Man of Steel. And, that was a script. David S. Goyer worked on it. Zack Snyder comes in pretty late in the game and he's directing the script. And of course, you see the movie's got his signature all over it. But the story was, I think, one of the best stories the DCEU ever told. And if it's not Lobo, I want to pitch this. I think Zack Snyder could be a great director for The Authority. I think The Authority would be a great movie because, like, again, you were mentioning Watchmen. I'm like Watchmen, The Authority.
That
There's
could
a
be
lot of
really
similarities I see there, and The Watchmen is a cult classic. I think a lot of people still don't give it enough appreciation for what that movie did. And I know that the TV series has now got a big audience and a following, but I still think that the movie that Zack Snyder made, holds a lot of water and it stands the test of time. And I would think that he would be a great fit for something like The Authority, especially coming off working on a project like Rebel Moon. So, I mean, of course, a lot of this depends on just how much free time he has on his hands to do
right.
anything. Not one of his many projects over at Netflix where he's got carte blanche. And I think that's something significant where he would want to have creative control and he would want to have the freedoms that he wasn't given when he was working on the DCEU. And that's going to be a big qualifying factor. So if James Gunn and Peter Safran do decide to bring Zack Snyder in to work on a project for the DCU, they're probably going to want to make sure that all of that stuff is squared away before whatever character they pick to work on together. But definitely, I think that would be any project Zack Snyder does work on, even if it's a guest episode, the director gig on like Booster Gold or something like that. I think that would automatically draw a big audience just out of whether it's morbid curiosity or just all the positive fandom that surrounds him with the Snyderverse movement, which I think gets convoluted sometimes because there's a lot of people out there that are toxic, but there's also a lot of people who have done a lot of good, helping to bring Zack Snyder's Justice League to life, and then all the work that they've done to some great causes. So yeah, definitely, I would love to see Zack Snyder not only succeed over at Netflix, but maybe one day return back. The prodigal son returns to DC. We'll see if that happens. Guys, let us know in the comments. I know this is gonna get a lot of comments, so let us know what project you would like to see Zack Snyder direct if you were to ever return to DC and work under the DCU umbrella. Or maybe even he gets to do something else world related. It's like something that is completely separate from the DCU, and it's an Elseworld story. Maybe it's a continuity of something he's done before, hint hint, or maybe it's something completely different. Let us know in the comments what you guys think about that. Would you like to see Zack Snyder back in the DC fold one day? And if so, what project would you like to see him work on?